So going into Russia, we knew that with one car, with Charles's car, we would start from the back of the grid. Why? Because we introduced our fourth power unit. Knowing this beforehand, we already focused our whole weekend for Charles onto race preparation, as it will, and also to help Carlos more on qualifying. So we actually split the work in two. Carlos focused more on qualifying. Charles mainly focused on high fuel preparation. We had to make sure that with Charles, we did not actually make it to Q3, because one of the points in the regulations is that if we do make it to Q3, we have to start the race on the set from Q2. So we were very mindful of this in qualifying, and we only took part in qualifying one, and then we actually parked the car. Okay, so this weekend we had an interesting race. We had Carlos starting in P2 and Charles starting in P19. With Carlos, we had a strategy to be very aggressive on the first stint, and as you could see, he had a fantastic start. He managed to take that lead away from Norris and was leading the race for a while until lap 14, when he started suffering, and we had to stop to make sure we didn't get undercut by cars in the back. From then on, Carlos had a long race to the end on that hard tire. We were poised to finish around P3, P4, depending on whether he could keep Perez behind or not. Rewind again and we start the race with Charles, and he had a similar race, but on the back of the grid. Charles started P19, and on the first lap we found ourselves in P12 already. Charles had started on the hard tire, so he would have had to run longer. We had stopped on lap 14 with Carlos, so we knew we had to run quite far down the road with Charles to make sure we didn't put him in a frail position towards the end of the race. We suffered a bit of a setback on the pit stop, but Charles managed to make all those positions back, and before the rain came, we had an honest expectation of finishing P7, P8. So on lap 46, the rain started to come, and we find ourselves with two cars into very different situations. Carlos in P3 with a 31-lap-old hard tire, so a very used old tire. So we were very sure that Carlos would have had to stop either to a soft tire or to an intermediate tire. So Carlos stopped on intermediate, losing a few places, but at least we thought, okay, there's no way he's going to make it to the end of the race unless we stop him. With Charles, we had a very different story. He had only stopped 10 laps before onto a medium, and that medium was doing quite well on damp conditions. He was making positions as we went on. And so we found ourselves in the tight spot on lap 50, in which we thought, okay, it's starting to rain more. We have a podium in our sight if we manage to overtake the two cars in front of us, or if they pit out of the way. Or we come in with the cars ahead of us and we finish P7, P8. And we had a conversation along those lines with Charles. We believe there's more rain coming. It's going to be tough to keep it on track, but if we can keep it on track for 3 more laps, there's a good chance of getting a very good result out of this. We decided to stay out. Now, as we sit here, we know that was the wrong decision. These tough choices come very often in wet conditions. Only this past weekend, during qualifying, we had a similar one with Carlos. We were on intermediate, as most people, on a damp track. And we had to say, are we going to just stay on intermediate and do our best we can on intermediate, or are we going to risk it, put a soft, be one of the first cars to be on soft, so that 2 laps later we can actually set the fastest lap? We took the risky way out of it, and thanks to that, Carlos managed to get a very good qualifying position. Okay, with hindsight, we would have done a few things differently, but the biggest difference here would have been to assess better the rain conditions on lap 50, 51, 52. Had we known that we were actually damned to stay out on a dry tire as we were with Charles, we wouldn't have even posed ourselves the question of staying out for a small likelihood of a podium. We would have just cut our losses short, kept the driver safe, and put him on an intermediate tire on lap 50. We would have likely finished P6, P7, which would have been much better than the P15 we found ourselves at the end of the race.